In this video, we will discuss the changes that occurred within the exclusive buyer-tenant residential brokerage agreement as a result of the NAR settlement agreement that went into effect in August of 2024. I'm going to quickly identify the portions that changed and make sure that we understand the new forms as they're intended to be used. So the first change that you'll see is in Section 8 regarding brokers' compensation. First, you'll see that they have the standard disclaimer that commission rates are not fixed by law and that they are negotiable. You also see that the format of the compensation has been changed. Per the settlement and also Maryland statute, there are three options that you can charge your client. You can charge a percentage, you can charge a flat fee, or you could charge some combination. So it may be common for an agent to put 2.5% here as an example. Some people might put 3% and a $495 fee. Or maybe you just want to charge $7,000 for the total transaction. So you would pick one of these three boxes as your total compensation to be paid. So it's very important here that we don't include flowery language. We don't include things that make it harder to calculate. One of the sticking points of the settlement agreement was that it must be easy, straightforward, and transparent how the compensation is to be calculated. As we proceed further down, the other big change has to do with how much money can the buyer agent receive from the seller's side. Importantly, even though it says that the buyer is responsible for the amount set forth in paragraph 8A, still compensation may be offered from the listing broker, as it was in the old compensation regime. Now, it sets forth that you as the buyer broker need to at least attempt to determine the amount of offered compensation from the listing broker before you submit any offer to purchase. This will have important implication as to whether or not the buyer can actually afford this property. Now, the big important change that they made, and this is directly from the settlement agreement, that you as buyer agent and the buyer broker is prohibited from receiving any compensation exceeding the compensation amount specified in paragraph 8A. So if you put, you would like to be paid 2.5%, and the seller, even if they were offering more, if the seller was offering 3%, you are no longer allowed to receive that additional compensation. You may not receive any compensation exceeding what you put down in paragraph 8A. So the amount here should be considered the cap. This is the maximum amount that you can be paid from this transaction. They also include a provision that will mostly apply for a for sale by owner situation, where if the property is not listed in the MLS, the broker needs to disclose to that seller prior to the execution of the purchase agreement that you represent the buyer. And in order to help your buyer best, you should make any request for compensation from the seller at first contact. So this should be, it's obviously very important that we can understand and communicate to our buyers if the sellers are willing to contribute towards the buyer agent compensation. all other aspects of the document remain the same, obviously with the biggest change related to compensation. Now, the final piece that is not captured in the language of the document, per the settlement agreement, this document must be signed by your client prior to showing any homes. Now, this will be a practice change for many real estate agents in Maryland, but it is now absolutely required that this document be completed prior to showing a home. These are the changes as of August 14th, 2024 to the buyer agency agreement.